Our next session will be delivered by Rob Peacock, and there he is on screen. Hello, Rob. And Rob, he works for Oxford University Press as well. He's an educational service consultant, and like Mark, he's got more than 20 years experience teaching students of all ages in Japan and doing workshops like this. So Rob is going to speak about a kind of new framework, learning with concepts, and how that applies to young learners. So Rob, if you're ready to go, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Hello, everybody, and welcome to LTalk 2023. As Josh mentioned, my name is Rob, and I work for Oxford University Press. In this second session, we're going to talk about this exciting new approach, which we're referring to as learning with concepts, and how it can be applied to learners in the preschool or primary level classroom. And there'll be lots of interesting ideas for both planning curriculums, planning lessons, and executing lessons as well. So I hope this will be of interest to everybody. Here's what I plan to cover in the next hour or so. We're going to start off by talking about what we mean by learning with concepts. And I can give you a definition from an exciting new focus paper that we have on the subject. And I'll run through some of the main benefits we have to this teaching approach. And then I'll illustrate all of that with some practical classroom activities, which are aimed for children in the preschool and primary level classroom. Throughout those activities, I'll be showing you, these activities will include some examples from a brand new pre-primary course called Little Blue Dot, and you will actually be the first teachers in the world who will be able to see examples from this course. So I hope that will be exciting for everybody. And then we'll finish up the session with more resources and information about Little Blue Dot, about our focus paper, and some more exciting information as well. Now, before we get started, I'd like to tell you all a little bit more about myself. As Josh mentioned, I've been teaching English and running workshops for the last 20 years or so. I first came to Japan. I live in Japan now, and I first came to Japan in the year 2000. And I taught a variety of different levels and ages of students for about 10 years before joining OUP in 2010. And I work for OUP Japan now. Now, when I was teaching, as I mentioned, there were lots of pre-primary classes as well as primary learners. For some of the pre-primary classes, one approach that I had in the classes was to have a topic or a particular vocabulary group for every month. Students would usually have one lesson a week. So we'd have about 4 lessons every month. And so it's usually keep the same topic, the same vocabulary group for that month, and introduce it in the first lesson. And throughout the rest of the 4 lessons, there'd be a variety of activities, games, songs, arts and crafts based around that particular vocabulary group. I'll give you an example. Feelings would be a common vocabulary group which we'd introduce, perhaps happy, sad, hungry, thirsty, angry, sleepy, etc. So students will practice those words throughout those 4 lessons. So just as a quick warm-up activity, I'd like to get some of your ideas as well. What kind of other vocabulary groups or topics are often taught in English classes? It could be in the very young learners classroom, primary classes, or if you're teaching junior, senior high school, adults, then what kind of topics do you cover in those classes as well? If you have an idea, please type into the chat box. And as Josh mentioned during the break, please do type into the chat rather than the Q&A. Okay, so we've got some ideas coming straight in. Animals and plants, fruits and vegetables, colours, professions is a good activity, thank you. We've got vehicles, families and friends, days and dates, clothes, hobbies. Wow, so many coming in so quickly I can barely keep up. Okay, various topics, nouns, countries, family, seasons, environment and motivation, that's a good one as well. Shapes, food, places, house sports, jobs, community helpers, that's a great one. Thank you, Elisette. Healthy and unhealthy food. Actually, we'll be talking a little bit about that later on. Joyful songs, that sounds fantastic, Fiona. Thank you very much for the idea. Occupations, pronouns, weather. Apologies to those who are missing here. I'm getting so many ideas that I can't keep up with everything. But as we can see, there are so many different ideas, topics that we can introduce to learners through our classes. So let me go on and add a few that I would often teach. So in addition to feelings, perhaps we'd also teach things such as greetings or classroom language. So hello, good morning, good afternoon, how are you today? Classroom language, things such as, can I have a pencil please? Let's do this activity. Everybody please open your book. What page please, etc. We'd often teach that kind of incidental language in the classes as well. Now, one thing we'd often talk about in our classes is, what are we actually doing for our students by teaching them these vocabulary groups? For example, 1 week we're teaching feelings. We'd also teach classroom language. But how does that help students in general? So we mentioned, for example, happy, sad, sleepy, hungry. When students become older, they become teenagers, adults, will they actually remember the vocabulary that we taught them? And do any students who didn't have lessons earlier on in life actually not know these vocabulary items as well? So we had those kind of doubts about what we were teaching. But if we look at some of these vocabulary groups, feelings, greetings, classroom language, there's actually a concept that's behind these three ideas. And that concept is communication. Of course, when we talk about our feelings or we greet people, we use language to communicate with each other. Students use language to communicate with each other or the teacher in the classroom. That's all under the broad concept of communication. So we can develop students' knowledge of this concept, get students to work actively with these concepts and develop their knowledge of the world through that concept, through teaching these different vocabulary groups. I'll give you another activity. Perhaps 1 month we might teach students family words. Another month we might teach actions and abilities, and then move on to the topic of food, which many of you mentioned. So again, these might seem like three very separate, random vocabulary groups. And it's nice to have a common link to make sure that we're really taking care of students' overall development. I can see Fato here is suggesting interpersonal skills as a concept behind these, and that's a great idea. Another idea is identity. If we think about it, the members of our own families, the things that we can do and can't do, and perhaps foods that students like and don't like, are all part of their general identity. And yes, that's another great idea. Thank you. Socializing also falls under this category as well. So when we talk about teaching or learning through concepts, we're really talking about taking these familiar kind of vocabulary categories and topics and putting them together into a broad concept for students to work with and develop their knowledge of, while developing their learning skills. So that brings us on to learning with concepts. And this is what I'd like to talk about in more detail today. Now, we recently, at Oxford University Press, we recently published a focus paper called Learning with Concepts, written by Bridget Kelly, who's also one of the co-authors of our new course, Little Blue Dot. Here you can see from that paper a definition of learning with concepts. Learning with concepts is about identifying and exploring concepts or big ideas. Rather than teaching a set of disconnected facts, you are also guiding learners to understand and apply concepts across different contexts. Now, if you'd like to read this focus paper, in more detail. You can download it for free now, and the link should have just come up on your screen there. So please do take the time to read the paper at your leisure. It's got some fantastic ideas in there. But with this definition of learning with concepts in mind, I'd like to expand on that and talk a little bit more about 3 elements for learning with concepts, just to give everybody a more practical idea of how this will work out in the classroom. So as we saw on the last slide, we're going to decide on some key concepts to teach the children and to allow children to work with and explore. So let's look at an example here. Our key concept might be communication. But in addition to this big, broad concept, we want some supporting concepts to help us introduce to the classes. What supporting concepts might link to communication? Well, there's speech, body language, the written word, pictures, and many more that we could introduce to the students. So we might have a key concept for maybe 1 month or an entire term. And throughout all of the individual lessons, we're going to organize them according to our supporting concepts: speech, body language, the written word, pictures. Then to teach our classes, we might focus on some particular situations and examples that relate to those supporting concepts. What kind of situations and examples might relate to these 4 supporting concepts which you can see on the screen? Well, Hannah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you very much. There's pictures for body language. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you very much for your kind comments there. Okay, here are some other ideas. Well, for speech, you might focus on key phrases for greetings, classroom language, etc. Body language could focus on games with mimes and gestures. For the written word and for pictures, we might have students take part in a craft activity such as making a thank you card. And in that way, we have some very practical activities that really link to the supporting concepts and link back to our key concept of communication. Thank you very much, Fato, for that great idea. Role plays are also very important for communication. Agueda, thank you very much for your idea. Songs, of course, link back to these key concepts and supporting concepts too. So with that approach in mind, before we go on to some more practical activities, I'd like to talk a little bit more about why we would approach this, why we would adopt this approach. Why learn with concepts? I'd like to focus on 4 main key benefits for learning with concepts. The first one is promoting active learning. And as you can see in this picture, the teacher and the children are being very active. They're stretching their bodies in the classroom. Active learning could include having students move around and move their bodies in class, but also be active in their thinking as well. Thinking about what they're learning, playing and exploring with it, thinking about the concepts. So in an active learning approach, we're talking about hands-on activities, getting students to really play around with things physically and mentally, as well as an experiential approach to learning, having students learn about these concepts through their experiences in the classroom. There'll also be a sense of play and exploration through the activities. That's a great point. Thank you, Elisette. They need to move around to stay connected. And we often talk about the left and right-hand sides of the brain. So moving around while we learn helps students to stimulate both the left and right-hand side of the brain. Another related benefit is that we're enhancing critical thinking. Critical thinking skills are, of course, very, very useful for 21st century learning, for students to be successful in a modern global society. And it's never too early for students to start developing their critical thinking skills. They can do critical thinking activities even in the pre-primary classroom as 3-year-olds. To do that, we're going to get students to evaluate the information and ideas that we introduce to them and get them to develop their reasoning and problem-solving abilities through a range of activities. And I'll show you some more practical ideas later on. Brainstorming, thank you very much, Claudia, is a great way to develop critical thinking ability too, as our experiments. Thank you very much, Annie. Through this, we're also going to naturally develop students' creativity, exploration, and curiosity. And this is something that young children naturally have a lot of it. So we really want to harness this power through the activities in our classroom. We want to get students to ask and answer questions about the topic, thinking about what they already know and what they're going to learn more of. We want to get students thinking creatively about the topic and develop their creativity through a range of different ideas. Creativity is so important. It's something that, as I mentioned, students have a lot of, but through some types of education, students are discouraged to be creative. So it's great to actually encourage them to be more creative. Creativity has been linked to well-being and by extension happiness, and that's vital for good memory and therefore a successful learning experience. So as Antoinette has mentioned here, participatory learning rather than the lecturing type really does encourage that creativity as well. And Noah, thank you very much. Show them the steps. Leave everyone to put them in touch with and computer lab activities as well. That's a great idea. Thank you. And the final benefit of learning with concepts is supporting diverse learners. Students learn at different speeds in the young learner and primary classroom. We have diverse learning types, diverse abilities within every class. So we need a variety of different activities that can appeal to diverse learning styles. And we want to give all students an opportunity to be successful in the classroom. So we need a wide variety of adaptable activities that can be changed for example, visual learners, as opposed to kinesthetic or body smart students, or students who are people smart, as opposed to students who are self-smart. And to make sure that students with different abilities, different levels of confidence with the English language, with speaking, as well as reading and writing, can all be successful in the classroom. So thank you very much, Marina. Yes, we want to encourage all of the students to be successful and take part in the activities. So with that definition of learning with concepts and all of those benefits in mind, I'd like to move on now to how to implement learning with concepts with a variety of different activities that can appeal to those different types of learners. As Safa mentioned, one size does not fit all. So let's look at some flexible activities with some examples from a variety of different course books that we have for pre-primary and primary learners. So the first thing I'd like to suggest is introducing our topic and getting students to think critically about the topic from the beginning by using some big open questions. To get students thinking creatively about a topic, we're going to ask them a very wide question which encourages them to make some initial statements about the topic and be creative in their approach. Now, to lead into the big questions, it's useful to have some visual stimulation, particularly for very young learners. So I'm going to show you a picture from our brand new course book for pre-primary classes now, which is called Little Blue Dot. And again, you are the first educators in the world to see this material. So here we have our introductory page from Little Blue Dot. And we'll show you a little bit more about where you can learn more about the course later, download some sample material. And I believe we'll be playing a video later to tell you a little bit more about the course. But to introduce the topic, as the course tells you here, we're going to notice things in the picture. So as an example, please type in the chat box anything that you notice about this picture. What interesting things can you see going on in the picture here? Thank you, Paula. Yes, I think it is a lovely picture as well. Very nice photos. Thank you very much, Rowena. Is there anything in particular that you can see going on here? Great, the children are enjoying. For example, I hope you can see this boy in the bottom right-hand corner here. I think he's looking at ladybugs. And yes, somebody mentioned there's a boy in a wheelchair here as well. Great. Some children are looking into the sky. Great. There's lots of children and one adult. Great. And the children all like different things. Someone's drawing on the wall. Great. Thank you very much. Let me circle there. They're drawing a picture in the tree. We're in a park, a kindergarten. Everybody's having fun. Great. The children are playing outdoors. Great. A boy is playing with a ball here. Great. Thank you very much. A girl is playing in the sandbox, well noticed. And they all look happy. I think they're happy because they all have a chance to play. Somebody mentioned neurodiversity with the things that they are interested in. So children enjoy different things. Great. So thank you very much for taking part there. This all leads into our big question for the unit. What can we see? And we can see there's another question here. Where do we see nature? So we have some more pictures to help students work with this. We can see some colourful birds here. There's the parrots. We've got some butterflies and some eggs in a nest as well. Great. So we have our very big, wide question here. What can we see? And if students can give answers to that, or where do we see nature? If students can give answers to that, that's great. For some students, it might be a little difficult to answer these big questions. So we can just use these big questions for our curriculum planning. And for the classroom, introduce some guiding questions here. So some more realistic questions for, say, 3 to 6 year olds might be, who likes to go to the park? Yes, I do. Can you see flowers in the park? Yes. Of course, it's autumn here in Japan, so we're seeing some very nice autumn leaves in the park, as well as some autumn flowers as well. There's some very nice purple flowers that are blooming at the moment. I'm not quite sure what they are. What else would we ask the student? Can you see insects in the park? Yes. Can you see butterflies in the park? Yes. Can you see parrots in the park? As you can see in this picture. Well, not in Japan. What insects can you see in spring is another nice guiding question. You can see beetles. You can see all kinds of insects. What insects can you see in the autumn? Well, you can still see butterflies in the autumn sometimes. Oh, Fata, great idea. I can see bees. Thank you. So these guiding questions can be a little more practical for the classroom. And again, we can design them for different levels of students and students' different interests. So that supports diverse learners. In addition, answering these big questions helps with active learning. We're getting students to think actively about the topic, getting them to think critically and evaluate the topic, and encouraging creativity, exploration, and curiosity from the very beginning as we introduce the topic. So that picture was designed for the pre-primary classroom. This picture is from another course called Oxford Discover. And this is designed for slightly older learners. This is for primary classes. So again, we have another picture here. There are some birds building a nest, and that leads into our big question. Where do animals live? well, birds live in nests. Where do other animals live? Again, that can be a useful question for curriculum planning. If you'd like to make it more achievable for students in the classroom, we can use some guiding questions. Here are some examples I thought of. Oh, great idea. Thank you very much. Some animals live in the forest. Right. The mother bird, what is the mother bird doing? Thank you, Linda Lee. That's a great guiding question. I think she's feeding her children there. And we can ask students questions such as, what other animal words do you know? Who has a pet? Where does your pet sleep, eat and play? Where do birds live? Where do bears live? Where do rabbits live, etc.? Those could all give different answers. Which animals live in the ground, in trees, in the ocean? So again, these guiding questions help to guide the discussion in the class, help us adapt the material for different learning styles, and many more things. Here's another picture, and this is also from Oxford Discover. Again, we have a picture of a girl enjoying the autumn leaves, which again, we're starting to enjoy here in Japan at the moment. And that leads into our big question, how are seasons different? Now, I'd like to throw this over to you with this as a big question. What guiding questions could you ask your students around this big question? If you have any ideas, please type into the chat box. Okay, why do you think the girl is wearing heavy clothes? Thank you, Lemia. That's a great question. Perhaps it's getting a little cold during autumn, so she has to wrap up warm. And thank you for that guiding question. Which season do you like? That's a great question. What do you do in fall? Who likes to play with leaves? I do. Great. What is the girl doing? Great. She's playing with leaves. Do you like autumn? What color are the leaves? Great question. They're kind of a gold brown, aren't they? What seasons do you know? Great. What is your favorite season? What do you like doing in other seasons, such as winter? Excellent ideas. Thank you very much for all of your guiding questions there. And again, I'm sorry I can't respond to everybody. We're getting so many great ideas coming in so quickly. Okay, so that was the first idea. Sorry, here are some of my ideas, very similar to some of the things that you're typing. How many seasons do you know? What season is it now? What do you wear in summer? What do you wear in autumn? What do you wear in winter? And what can you do in different seasons? So very similar to the ideas that you're all kindly contributing here as well. So again, these big questions with guiding questions help to encourage active learning, develop critical thinking, creativity, exploration, and curiosity, and supporting diverse learners as well. Once we've introduced our topic with these pictures and big questions, guiding questions, we can then get students to further develop their knowledge of the concepts and work actively with these concepts with hands-on activities and play-based learning. So I'd like to just run through a few examples that I thought of here. Here's an example again from Oxford Discover. So this is designed for primary level students, 6 to 12-year-olds. This is to work with the concept of location, where things are, and we're encouraging students to personalize that concept and work with it in a very hands-on way by making a map of their own town or wherever they live. So this student will present his information by saying, I live in an apartment in a city. My neighborhood is big. There is a park and a school in my neighborhood. Okay, so that was that student's area. A lot of you are joining from different parts of the world, so you may live in slightly different areas with different things in your town. So again, we're supporting diverse learners here because they can adapt the activity according to their environment, where they live, some of the other things that you might see in their local area. And again, they can work with the language according to their level. They can put different things in the town according to the kind of area that they live in. Another great hands-on activity can be experiments or working with nature. So the key concept that we're working with here is exploration. And this science experiment that we're going to do is to have students to grow their own plants. Now, as you can see, this student here is holding up a plant that she grew herself. And I think it went very well. The plant that she's growing worked well. But let's imagine students tried to grow a plant in their school, perhaps in the school garden, or in some plant boxes that they have in the classroom. Perhaps it didn't go well, the plant didn't grow. The students will then think about what they should have done differently, how they could do it better next time, and learn through trial and error. This actually happened to me quite recently. I tried to grow some pansies in my garden outside. I'm afraid it didn't work. We need to think more about what we could have done better. Did I give them enough water? I think I was supposed to pluck some of the pansies that had already grown to let the others grow, put them in a better place so that the sun shines on them. So as Noah is mentioning here, science projects such as seeds planting seeds or cotton, those kinds of projects are another really great hands-on way, great way to utilize active learning in the classroom and get students to experiment and find for themselves what goes well and what doesn't go so well. Great, thank you very much, Fatu. You have a green thumb. That's a great thing to have. Working with plants is a great way to learn and great way to engage with nature. Here's another activity, and this comes from a course called Show and Tell. This is the miming game. So again, we're working with the key concept of communication here. The student says, "I like," and mimes an animal. The other student guesses birds. That's right, yes, I like birds. So that went very well for that student. And of course, we're thinking about body language and ways that we can communicate without words here. But let's imagine it doesn't work well. Let's say, I like this. But my classmate said, "Oh, you are itchy, you are scratching." Oh no, it didn't work well this time. So I have to think of another mime. I like, nom 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 nom. You are eating a banana. Yes, I like, oh, monkeys. And eventually your classmates will get it. So again, students can work through trial and error here. Even if the mime doesn't work the first time, they can think again of a different mime and hope the students can get it the next time. And in that way, yeah, that's an active learning approach. Students are exploring the concept and solving the problem. This develops students' problem-solving activities from a very early age. Here's another activity to work with the concept of identity. As I mentioned, things such as family, our abilities, the things that we like and dislike are all part of our identity. So to help students express that, we have an activity here where students make their own flag. And this is from a course called Everybody Up, which is designed for primary school learners. So this would be aimed at 6 or 7-year-olds. I think it's from level 1. So here students are going to make their own family flag. They write their family name in the middle. The student's name is Cruz. No relation to Tom, I'm afraid. But they're also drawing some things. Perhaps that's the family pet, I think the cat, and things related to their own hobbies or their family members' hobbies as well. And once they've drawn their family flag, they can present it to the class or have a conversation with another student as well. This works well with show and tell activities. So the boy on the right, I think, is Cruz. He said, my flag is yellow. It has a book because my mother likes to read. And the girl underneath says, my flag has a penguin. I like penguins, etc. So depending on the student, their hobbies and interests, they can draw anything that's relevant to their family. My surname, as you know, is Peacock. So I might draw a picture of a peacock, and I might draw some musical notes on my flag because everybody in my family likes music. So again, that's a great way to personalize the activity. Students again can draw whatever they like, so they can be creative, think critically about the topic by personalizing and evaluating, and they choose what goes on their flag. They can use the language that they're already comfortable with to talk about the flag, which means we're supporting the diverse learners. Students of different levels can all be successful. Great, so let's move on to another activity type. Now here, stories are a great way to develop students' emotional well-being, because the topics or the emotional journey of the characters can mirror their own emotional journey very well. But we can also get students thinking creatively about the content of stories and develop their critical thinking abilities as well. So I'm going to show you a story that comes from our brand new course, Little Blue Dot. And it relates to this general concept, this big concept, words and pictures. The main concept, here is communication. So our big question is, sorry, it's a little small on the screen for me here. The main question is, why do we write words and draw pictures? So again, this is relating back to our concept of communication. And we're going to read a story now with our main character, who is on the right. His name is Spark. This is Spark the dragon, and he's sitting at the table with his mother. So before we learn the content of the story, the name of the story is Thank You. A great idea is to get students, a great activity is to get students to brainstorm based on the picture. So what can you see in the picture here? Please type in the chat box, what is Spark doing and what is Spark's mother doing? Or what can you see in their home? Great, so as Bashaya says, what are Spark and his mother doing? What can you see in the picture? That's a great point. Thank you very much, Linda. Stories do help students to remember well. They're very impactful on the memory. Okay, and Alice, thank you very much there. Perhaps he's doing his homework. The mother is reading, Spark is drawing, maybe illustrating a story. We can see dragons. Maybe the mother is reading a story to her son. Great, they're chatting. One is reading, one's drawing. We can see a book, pen to paper, crayons. The dragon family is spending time together. That's right, I can see a cup on the table. Maybe it is counselling. That's a great idea. Okay, they do look a little bit like crocodiles, as somebody wrote. But I think they're older relatives of the crocodile. They're dragons. Okay, let's change the picture. Both are happy. Great, they're spending time together. Can you see anything new in the picture here? Oh, they are very cute dragons, thank you. Very nice, they're sharing time. It's a dragon family bonding moment, great. Great, the mum is helping. Can you see what the mum has in her hand here? I'll just circle that, I hope you can see it. Mum has something in her hand, yes. Mum gives him an eraser, great. Well done, okay. Okay, and now going on to the next picture. What does the mum have in her hands this time? Fiona, that's a great point. I think this is promoting positive emotional well-being. Great, that's right, she has some crayons. Okay, so she's maybe passing some crayons to Spark. And the final picture, what can we see now? What is the ending to the story? That's right, there's a drawing of a fish on the card. That's right. The mother is supporting her son's passion. That's a great thing to see, isn't it? That's right. Spark created a card for his mother. Thank you, Elisate. I think it is a beautiful story. Great. Maybe it's Mother's Day. That's a great idea. So that's why she gets a thank you card. Okay. So as you can see, we can see a lot of the story from the picture, and eliciting the story from the pictures is a great introduction activity. In the next stage, students are actually going to watch a video of the story. I can't show you the video today, I'm afraid, but when the course becomes available, you will be able to access the digital resources with the video. But let's see the story with some speech bubbles so that we know what the story is. So Spark said, I have an idea. Oh no, Mum, an eraser. And Mum passes the eraser, but she says, Spark, say. Now, can anybody guess what Mum said to Spark as she passed the eraser? She's telling him to say something. That's a great idea. Perhaps, Rukia, that's a great guess. Please. Say please. Okay. That's right. She said, Spark, say, may I have an eraser, please? Okay. And then, here you go. Okay. So she passes Spark the eraser. Next, Spark says, Mom, may I have the crayons, please? So Spark remembered the phrase and he asked properly this time. So Mum passes the crayons, as we saw in the picture. But she also says, but Spark, this time, please say. So this time, may I have the crayons, please? Here you are. Great work in Indian, that's right. Please say, thank you. That's right. Spark, say thank you. So Spark says, thank you, as he takes the crayons. And then at the end, Spark gives the card to his mum. Here you are, Mum. Thank you, Spark. So you can see through this story, students are learning some useful phrases for politely asking for things and the things that you say when you give and receive. May I have something, please? Yes, here you are. Thank you. You're welcome. So these useful phrases to teach the children, not just for their general English communication ability, but to explore the concept of communication. We're communicating verbally, but Spark is also communicating through pictures and through writing, communicating to his mum that he feels grateful to her by making a card to say thank you. Perhaps it is for Mother's Day. So again, that's going to appeal to students of different learning styles. The visual learners who love learning from pictures will really enjoy that story. And we're getting students to be hands-on by discussing the pictures. We're discovering these concepts within the story rather than simply teaching them to the students. So that was a story for pre-primary students using Little Blue Dot. I'd like to give you, for those of you who are teaching slightly older students now, I'd like to give something for elementary school level, primary school level students. And this is from a reader from a series called Dolphin Readers. I believe this is stage 1 from the series. And we're going to read a story now called Candy for Breakfast. Okay. Now, this could be through the main concept of kind of health, what is healthy and unhealthy food. And again, through this story, we're going to explore that concept. So the girl's name here is May, and her mother has come in to wake her up. She says, wake up, May, it's Monday, it's a school day, come and eat breakfast. So you can see May has the cover pulled up. I think she's a little cold. Maybe it's autumn, so it's still a little chilly in the morning. But she gets out of bed and she comes downstairs to the kitchen. Good morning, Mum. What time is it? It's 7 o'clock. It's nearly time for school. So Mum has a very busy job here. She needs to get May ready for school in time. But first, of course, May needs to have her breakfast. Now you can see in their kitchen some food. There's some food on the cupboard next to them, but there's also some food on the shelf above. What food can you see here? Again, please type into the box. Or Gabriella, I see you're familiar with Dolphin Readers, so I'm glad to see that you enjoy reading them. Thank you, Rosinta. There's some cereal down there. Yes, I don't want to do any product placement, but that's a box of Special K. And yes, there are some cookies up on the shelf there. Maybe some dry fruit, candies up on the shelf as well. There's some fruit down by the cereal, cornflakes, cereal and fruit, fresh fruits as well. Great. So what I hope you've noticed is down here on the cupboard, we have healthy foods, the cereal and the fresh fruits, whereas up here we have cookies and other less healthy food. Which can we have for breakfast? Okay. So what do you think May wants for breakfast? Do you think May wants cereal? Do you think May wants a banana? Do you think she wants the dried fruit in the jar? Maybe juice, biscuits, cookies, apples, sweets, mangoes, cereals? Let's turn the page to find out. What do you want for breakfast, May? I'm very hungry. Can I have a candy bar, please? Again, no product placement intended, but May has a Snickers bar here. Is that healthy? Is that a good thing to have for breakfast? Will Mum say yes? Why or why not? Oh no, that's right, Rowena. Maybe that's not a good thing. No. That's right, maybe she should eat healthy food. Why do you think Mum will say no? Why are candy bars not healthy for breakfast? It's unhealthy. Great idea. Too sweet. That's a great idea. Thank you. That's right. So Mum says, you can't have a candy bar for breakfast, May. Candy is too sweet. And she offers something healthy. Do you want an apple? So that's a very nice suggestion from Mum. But what do you think? Will May say yes to the apple? Do you think yes or no? Too much sugar for breakfast. Thank you, Antoinette. That's a great idea. It's junk food. That's right. So what will May say? No, Mum, I don't like apples. Can I have some cookies for breakfast, please? Oh, no. So May keeps asking for unhealthy things. May's mum keeps offering some more healthy options for her. And of course, time is ticking. She needs to get ready for school in time. And the story continues. If you'd like to know how the story ends, please do get a copy of Candy for Breakfast from Dolphin Readers. But as you can see through this story, which is more appropriate for primary school learners, we're dealing with some more complicated language. Do you want? I don't like this, I want this, etc. But we're also dealing with the important concept of healthy and unhealthy food and getting students to be hands-on, active in their approach, thinking critically, evaluating the topic, being creative, exploring the topic, being curious, while also supporting diverse learners because they can use the language that they're happy with to talk about what's happening in the pictures. The last thing I'd like to talk about today, or the last activity type, is projects. Projects are a great way for students to develop their knowledge of the topic and also show what they have learnt about a topic at the end of, say, a unit of study. I'd like to introduce a project idea which comes from Little Blue Dot, but the exciting news is we will show you later how to download some sample material which includes this project activity. So the key concept that we're working with here is nature. And to help students work with this concept, they're going to create something that will help them work with or connect with nature. Can you guess what it is? So first of all, students are going to cut out a paper egg box, and they're going to draw some pretty pictures on it. So you can see, this student has drawn some pink stars and some green stripes on her egg box. The next stage, the students are going to attach string to the egg box. Boriana, you've guessed it so quickly. Well done. Congratulations, you're the first. And tie the string. Okay, great point, Mohammed. I think you can tie it to the trees. And we can see a real photo of one that a student made earlier. And then they're going to introduce their egg box, perhaps do show and tell to talk about it. This is my bird feeder. It is pink. It has stripes. Okay. And then the students are going to hang their bird feeder in the tree with some food for the birds. This student puts some apples, and then they can watch the bird feeder to see which birds come. Students have a bird template here, which they can use to draw the birds, so they can get excited about the different colours of birds, different types of birds who come to feed on the bird feeder. So again, we'll show you later where you can download some sample material from Little Blue Dot, which includes the pages for completing this project. I hope you get to use it with your students. Great idea for sunny days. Thank you very much, Metap, for that comment. Now, these project ideas, as well as relating to key concepts, can also connect to things such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Here we have Goal 15, Life on Land, which is about protecting life on land. So this is from the Little Blue Dot Teacher's Book, which tells you more about the SDG and how the activities link to those. So it's quite a lot of text here. I won't read through all of this today, but as you can see, we can link these to the SDGs and develop with our students a sense of global citizenship, a knowledge of the really important issues facing people across the world today, and how these global issues are relevant to our everyday lives and what we can do to help with them. Now here's a quick project activity for slightly older students. So this again links back to the concept of identity. Students make a chart to introduce their family. The girl here is introducing by saying, these are my family friends, this is my mother, this is my father, this is my friend, etc. And again, students are getting to express themselves and explore the concept of identity. This again comes from Oxford Discover, which is aimed for slightly older students. So again, here is a discussion activity. We don't have time to talk about this in detail today, I'm afraid, but which projects do you often use it with your classes? What concepts do you think does it help students to explore? Feel free to type some ideas in as we go. I'm afraid I don't have time to stop and comment on your ideas. Apologies for that. But just to review, here is the process that we've gone through for learning with concepts. We started by thinking of some key concepts: identity, communication, location, etc., and several supporting concepts that relate to the key concept. We then design activities that link to those concepts, from big questions supported with pictures, supported by guiding questions to develop, to build a discussion in the classroom and get students thinking critically about the topic from the beginning. We then develop students' knowledge through hands-on activities. We looked at the miming game. We looked at various activities throughout the session, which get students to really be hands-on, learn through experiences, play with and explore the concept, and then develop that knowledge through stories, which are again encouraging students to be creative, explore the topic, develop their curiosity, and finally for students to show what they have learnt, express their opinions through projects. All the while, we're supporting diverse learners by allowing students to work with the activities to level that suits them, with activities that that link to their learning styles. So all students are able to are set up for success in the classroom. Now, finally, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Little Blue Dot, then please use the QR code here. I think we also have a link that's just come up on the screen for you here. You can learn a little bit more about the course here and also download material, including the bird feeder project. So again, please do try that out with your students. And I'd just like to finish up with this quote that again comes from our focus paper on learning with concepts. As we've seen today, learning with concepts focuses on developing a deep understanding of key concepts so that knowledge and language are attained in the long term. It also provides a strong foundation for future learning. So we're not just simply teaching students a few English words and phrases, which they'll forget as they get older, or that every student learns some point in their education. We're developing an approach to learning, a love of learning English and of learning generally, which will stay with students without their lives so that they become lifelong learners. And I think that's the most precious thing that we can give our students through our classes. Okay, so again, if you would like to download the Learning with Concepts focus paper for free, please do use this QR code that's on the screen. That's everything from me. Before I finish up, I'd just like to see if we have any questions. So let me just flick over to the Q and A tab. Are there any questions that I can respond to here? Or if you have any new questions, please type in the Q&A tab.
Rob, can you see the priority tab there in the Q&A? There should be some queued
Oh,
up
yes,
there.
I can. Thank you, Josh.
Have a look through those and choose one or two.
Great. So, Teresa, thank you very much for the question. I'd like to know how to design the guiding questions. Thank you very much. So, going back to our big question, which we saw earlier, what can you see in nature? What I think we need to do with the guiding questions is to funnel down to some more achievable questions for our learners, which also relate to their interests. So as the teacher, you know your students, you know the kind of things that they're interested in and the kind of things that they'll want to talk about. You also know their language levels, so designing questions that they'll be able to answer easily is very important. I think if you have a group class, starting with some poll type questions is very useful because students can simply raise their hand. So, who likes going to the park? I do. Who likes looking at flowers? I do, etc. Who likes insects? I do. So then students build their confidence, and then we can start working in some more questions where students can shout out one-word answers. You know, what insects can you see in the park? Butterflies, beetles, etc. And you could work in some more complicated questions if your students are going to be able to answer those. So you can really tailor your supporting questions according to your students' level and your students' interest. I hope that answers your question, Teresa. Manuel and Sadie's, how can we teach and design tasks for indirect speech to our students? Okay, so I'm kind of curious about what we're referring to with indirect speech here. Does this refer to, say, for example, reported speech? So if you're able to type into the chat box, I'll just quickly, could you let me know a little bit more about what you mean by indirect speech? Perhaps that's a term that you're using in your classes that I'm not so familiar with. But I'll come back to check in the chat in a moment. Jose is asking, so you consider by enhancing creativity and curiosity, we as teachers allow students to learn by their own lived experiences. Yes, thank you very much, Jose. That's exactly what I think the main point is with creativity and curiosity, students can experience many things in the classroom by working with hands-on activities and projects and those kinds of things. So they develop their own knowledge of the concepts and knowledge of the language in that way. And of course, their experiences outside of the classroom as well. And we can draw on that by asking students about that. This focus paper, Learning with Concepts, does expand on that a little bit more. So please do take a chance to read about that in detail. So let me just come back to this idea of indirect speech. I'll scroll to the bottom here. Oh, I'm just checking in the chat. Reported speech, Nasrin. Okay, thank you very much. So in my teaching career, reported speech, I really encountered in teaching adults. So it would be something such as, he said it's going to be sunny tomorrow, or she said she is too busy, or she said she was too busy to come to class, that kind of thing. I wouldn't have taught that so much in children's classes. So again, let me go back to the original question. Tasks for teaching indirect or reported speech to our students. So that's not something that I would have particularly done in children's classes so much myself. If anybody else does teach that in their classes, then feel free to type into the chat box. Or if I've misunderstood, then please do, again, type into the chat box to let me know more about this. But let me just go back to Q&A priority to see if I can answer maybe one more question. Priority. So finally, I'll answer Hashim's question here. Can we use them only with kids? So I think this refers to learning with concepts. So I think the concept of learning with concepts, we've looked in the context of children's classes today, but I think this can be applied to teenagers, young adults and adult classes as well. I think whatever age students we're teaching, there'll be certain concepts behind the topics that we're introducing, and we should always focus on active learning, critical thinking, creativity, exploration, curiosity, and supporting diverse learners are four main areas for learning with concepts. Yes, I think those really do apply to teenage classes and adult classes as well. And there are many things we can do to have students learning through active activities, hands-on learning through those ages as well. Sorry, I don't have time to talk about that in detail today. I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you all once again for your participation in this workshop. I hope there were some useful activities, and please enjoy the rest of LTalk.